Furled leaders have been a part of fly fishing really since the inception of the idea of fly fishing, going back to utilizing horsehair and being somewhat fragile, that they would spin and much like cording to build a little bit stronger leader, as well as being able to taper it down. There's been a resurgence in furled leaders in fly fishing, especially for freshwater. But about 25 years ago, we started tying and using furled leaders for saltwater. And we went with multiple strands and tried and experimented a bunch of things. What we've come up with is kind of a modified, very simple furling system that is quite effective. It makes for nice leader turnover, but more importantly, the furling or the twisting of the material adds as a nice shock absorber. It might save you from breaking off a fish from time to time. So what I'm going to build today is going to be a very simple leader using a 40-pound butt material or 40 pounds for the butt section, and then a class tip. In this case, I'm going to use a 30-pound test. I like the Ozuri hybrid. It's a soft Perlon inner core with a fluorocarbon coating on the outside, and P-line makes also a hybrid fluoro and Perlon. I'm not a real fanatic on fluorocarbon, but I do like the hybrids where you've got the soft inner core that is makes for much more secure knots, because it does tend to snug down quite a bit. I like the fluorocarbon, not so much from the invisibility factors. I don't think that plays that much into it, but it definitely is more impervious to deterioration from the radiant energy from the sun. So what I do for a standard leader here, I take about a full arm grasp and then maybe another couple feet. I'm going to snip it off here. I love hemostats, especially with scissors on them. Very, very good tool on the water and also on the bench. So I'm going to stretch it out here a little, make it a little easier to work with. Now, to secure it to the vise, I'm going to make a simple perfection loop. This is just merely to be able to attach to the vise. So what I'm going to do is just going to attach it to a hook that's in the vise. Then I'm going to come out here about an arm's length, and I'm going to wrap a couple of wraps around my finger. So this part's going to twist, and what's below my finger is not, okay? Then we're just going to take the vise and spin it about 20 times on a Nor vise. Now you can do this with an electric drill with a two-person operation. About 20 times. The other thing I'll start to feel is that the monofilament down here starts getting tight on my finger as an indication. Now, we don't want to just release this because it'll make a mess. So what I do is I come back here at the midpoint on the hook there, and you'll see the force of the twist will actually cause the vise to kind of spin out on its own. This way, where it is ferruled, lays out there nice and straight, not twisted up and all. Okay, now, at this point, we've got a single strand, we've got our ferruled strand, and to connect all this, just a simple surgeon's knot is plenty strong. With all that twist and ferruling, there's very little pressure on any kind of knot. So a simple double surgeons, pull it down nice and tight. Okay, at this point where we attach this to the hook, and that little section is of no use to us, so I'll just come up here and clip that off. And now we've got a leader with the butt section that's ferruled, goes down to single strand. Now, what's really nice is this loop that's in the top end of the ferruling section. You can put that into a loop section in your fly line, and it's a knot that's going to pass very easily through the tip-top guides if you happen to get excited and pull your leader into your guides. The fish makes a run. At least you don't have a knot there to hang up in the guides. You know, we don't want to get the leader into the guides, but it does happen. Now watch the knot in the middle there. See that? When you twist it, it has a nice, easy flex. And that helps prevent break-offs from a real sharp pull on the fish. 40 down to, in this case, 30, 20, 15 makes for a nice basic leader whether I'm fishing from the beach or fishing from offshore. Now I can take this class section and tie in 80 pound, 60 pound, 100 pound, whatever, and tie it into a billfish leader, have a bite leader onto it. Most cases I'm just tying the fly directly to the class leader. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can attach your class leader to this, and one of them would be to make a loop in the line, and I like a king sling. You can use a spider hitch. Any of those would work. You could you could use a perfection loop in this and pull it tight. And then we can loop to loop your class leader into that. Now, I have another method that actually I use most of the time in building my leaders. And I'm going to put in a little 35-pound Spro leader, or swivel, barrel swivel. They're very small, very strong, and there's a couple of advantages. One, you're attaching the class leader into the butt section to a smooth, fixed loop that's not going to collapse or fail. You add a little risk of knot slippage and all when you tie leader or monofilament to monofilament. There's a number of different ways that you can tie this, but quite often what I do, I love perfection loops, and tie a perfection loop, this little here. Okay. Slide that on there. Tie our perfection loop. Now I'm going to bring that leader or that swivel, cooperate here. I could have picked a little bigger swivel. There. One of the reasons I like hemostats, they got this little pin here that you use for cleaning out eyes. Makes a nice place to secure the swivel to be able to pull all this tight. Anytime that you work with knots, one of the things you want to do is pull everything just as tight as you can get it so there's no slippage, okay? Put that off. Now, this is pretty much a permanent thing. You can leave this attached to your fly line through a lot of fishing days without having to change this part of your leader system. But as your class leader gets chewed up, broken, tying moldable flies to it, you just cut off the class leader here at the swivel, add in a new section, and away you go, and you don't have to touch your nice ferrule leader. Okay, now that we've got a swivel attached into our butt section. The interchangeable thing, of course, is our tippet. So I don't find, in most cases in saltwater fly fishing, that you need much more than 6.5, 7.5 foot leader at the most in most situations. So about 3.5 foot butt section to another 3.5 foot of tippet material. In this case, like I said, we're going to use a little P-line hybrid fluorocarbon and pearl on nylon. I like to stretch this out, get it easy to work with. There's a number of knots that you can use to attach this. One of the strongest and simplest is a Eugene bend. And what I've done is I've come through the eye of the swivel. I'm going to come back on it like this. And this fly, you can find a number of fly tying apps or knot tying apps, but it just comes back, a loop back over the standing line, and just make 3 turns. It's an extremely strong knot. When I wrote the first book, we tested about 400 knots, not all different knots, but we tied 400 knots of about 5 or 6 type, broke them repeatedly to find what were the strongest, and the Eugene bend was one of the very strongest. So always lubricate, pull it down slow, never in a hurry. You don't want to burn that. You might tease it out just a little bit, pull it down slow, and watch the tag end. Now, you can see that this jumped as you're pulling it tight, and you can feel it snap. If that jumps forward when you pull it tight, you know that there are no wraps one over the other, and that you've got a good secure connection there. But it's a fairly small, compact knot, very strong knot, and one that's easy to tie. I mean, you can tie this knot quite quickly. Quite often, I mean, you can do it without even looking. It's a very almost like intuitive knot. And before I let a fish play with that, I want to make sure that all the slack is out of that knot, so there's no slippage. And there is just a very basic knot that you can use for most situations in saltwater. Up to, I'll do something different for billfish. We're looking at you know, an 80-pound bite leader, connecting the class section to the fly. But for everything else, this works very well. And actually too, in my freshwater fishing, I use the same setup. Instead of using, like say, 40-pound in this stuff here, I might start with 15 or 20-pound, and then go down to, you know, 4X or and on down the line until I tie in my fly. But I found, especially fishing for fairly large fish in some of the tailwaters and all, that might be 20 or more inches, and you're fishing, you know, size 20 midge patterns or betas, that the shock of a good fish taking and maybe a little overreaction on the hook set, it snapped that 5X or 6X right off. But with that nice spring action in there, sometimes it can save you a fish breaking off on that leader. But a very good leader system to utilize. I'll keep a number of these in my wallet, ready to go. And there we go.